I'm going to talk about two things that are very important to me, building on what Dr. Ganguly said. One is the P he talked about. Firstly, what we can learn from corporates. The second thing I'm going to talk about is entangling vocational education into the school system. And I'm excited about both the things, but I'll talk about the first one for a couple of minutes, and then I'll go on to the second one. I remember coming back from America. I grew up in America and Canada all my life, and I came back to India, and I wanted to settle here, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear three people talking about the telecom revolution that happened earlier on in the sessions. And I remember that. I remember coming to India. It was our blue-eyed boy, wasn't it? The things that the industry had done were tremendous. But how did they do it? Because I had the opportunity to work very closely as a psychologist with some of the big players in the industry, and there was a lot of analysis that I came about. And the thing I liked was there was, the race was on. There was companies like Airtel, and I think at that time it was called S.R. Hutchinson, and there was the paging companies, and the race was on. They were very excited about putting up these large infrastructures, but they'd spent thousands of crores. Instead of thinking about how are we going to market and get clients, what they started doing was they started finding companies that would do this for them. There was these marketing companies that said, you want a return on your investment, we'll give you a client base, we'll do it in this amount of time, and we'll do it for this much money that you're offering. And it worked out tremendously for them. They outsourced core processes, and it wasn't just the marketing, customer service, their whole infrastructure. They outsourced everything. And it worked out nicely for them, and as we heard earlier, as a result, we had some of the cheapest telecom rates in the world and are still enjoying them with fairly good infrastructure. But the thing that the corporates have taught us, and I think in schools we need to start implementing this, is, like Dr. Ganguly was saying, that the P he was talking about, people, I think we have to start finding the best talent, and it's not always going to be the educationists that we have. Many times it's going to be getting people to come into our schools and doing tremendous things on a paid basis, and I think that'll really work out. Now, we have to give a lot of emphasis to outsourcing, but yet I know there's a reluctance. I know from a lot of people's experiences of going into schools, it becomes hard, doesn't it? There's that notion that, I think our teachers should be able to do it themselves, or I think we should be able to develop these skills ourselves, but I don't see that happening too often. And it's a dream, but it never turns into reality. This is a limitation we have, and why not? हमारे इंडिया में, where the teacher usually reaches home 4 days out of 5 with the students on the school bus, and yet where I was growing up in America and Canada, the teachers used to come home at 6 o'clock, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock, because after school, they would spend a lot of time developing a lot of the projects they were working on. They were parts of task forces and committees, and they were very much interested in doing some big things, but they had the time. यहाँ दूसरी बात है, it doesn't work that way, and nor should it. I mean, I'm not here to change the system radically, but I'm here to suggest that, maybe it's time we let the outsiders in without being so skeptical about their motives, because it does work out in the long run. A lot of principals, a lot of people tell me that, this is good, but where do we find the talent? These companies are right at your door. They're trying to get in, they're trying to make way, they're trying to understand the peon's language so that they can finally make it to the principal. And many times they can't make it to the principals or the directors of the schools or the founders of the schools, but it does work. And in my own experiences, I've been to more than 1,000 schools in the remotest parts of India. And I'll tell you honestly, the people are there to give tremendous services to the schools, and I think the schools need to let them in and really embrace what they have without feeling afraid of, how can we let this happen? I think the corporates were very upfront about this, and I think we as educationists also need to be. But let me talk as a psychologist for a second. We all know what self-esteem is. We know that quite well. Self-esteem, what is it? It's our self-worth. But there's 3 pillars of self-esteem. And un pillars ke upar, imagine 3 pillars, just picture in your mind, and there's a platform, and we stand above our own 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars are, the first pillar is, what do I think of myself, my own self-image? The second pillar is, what do others think of me? How many people like me? How many people know me? Bacche are thinking about how many Facebook friends I have. Yeah, school mein, what do the teachers think of me? Or how many friends do I have? But the third pillar, and this is the most important, it's called self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is that the belief in oneself that given a chance, can I do it? Given a chance, will I be able to pull it through? Koi naya challenge aaye, do I think I can do it? As adults, we see it as, suppose if tomorrow one were to lose their job, if the person is not worried, I think I'll find another. I think I'm powerful enough. I think I'll be able to pull it through. Can I start a new business? I think I'll work it out. There might be many other challenges. I think I'll pull it through. That is self-efficacy. To me, that came at a young age, as the lady before was saying, from a formative age, from the developmental years. When I was studying in those vocational classes in school, and I did not become a carpenter or a mechanic, those are not bad professions, but I did not become any of those. But here was the thing. I learned more from those, probably, than from a lot of the education that I got in sitting in math and science and English class. Now, don't worry, I was pretty good at the academics as well, and I probably wasn't nearly as good as the vocational courses, but those taught me more about life and how to figure things out. And Hindi mein, there's a very crude word, and I'll use it, jugadu banna. Those taught me how to figure things out my way and get things done. At the end of the day, not being afraid, will I be able to do it? Will I not be able to do it? And I think that is the need of the hour. I think not just as a psychologist, but anybody would understand that if a child who grows up with a lot of experiences and feels, given the chance, I think I can do anything. Because school mein, I used to have to make these wonderful things out of wood and metalwork and things. And I think, zindagi mein koi bhi challenge dikhe, I think I can do it. So now the child becomes a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer or whatever. And it can't be limited to those professions. And I'm willing to bet you have some people from wonderful schools, whether it's Tagore International or Step by Step or any of the schools that you can think of being some wonderful names in Delhi. I bet if vocational studies were implemented in those schools in a big way, those children, I don't know if anybody will ever become a carpenter or a machinist or anything, but all of those kids will have a much higher chance of success. And I think that's our national urgency.